Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where you explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, you've got me, and we're going to be talking about, reviewing the first half of the year and what to do for the second half of the year here. Because if you can believe it or not, at least when I'm recording this, we are at the end of June of 2026, which is kind of crazy. I can't believe we're halfway through the year. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, oh, what? The summer season has started. But yes, if you're listening to this later, this is always something that you can do every half of the year, every quarter of the year. So I think it's always good to, I don't think this will go be outdated if you listen to it any other time. And if you didn't do this review halfway through the year or at a quarter or anything like that, maybe it's a good time to go do it. So yeah, halfway through, I think that you always want to be looking at your numbers, monthly, quarterly, and like a half year and of course yearly as well. So so when we're here, right, it's like, okay, beginning of the year, whatever, it could be like your financial year, and if it's a calendar year, same, whatever may work for you. It's a really good time to review all your numbers, and not just your numbers, but also like everything in your business that is happening. So, of course, we'll start with the numbers. So looking at your revenue, if you had goals for the year and you're halfway through, are you on track for those numbers? Was it a good year, good first half of the year? Was it not so good for first half of the year? Sometimes, with launches, if you have launches planned for the second half of the year that are you typically bigger and you get more people, that more revenue typically comes the second half of the year, then are you on track just based on knowing your numbers. Look at your clients. How many clients do you have? How many did you gain throughout the first half of the year? How many did you lose in that first half of the year? And maybe why did you lose them? What happened? Did people renew? Did people not renew? Why didn't they renew? What went on there, and what can you do to perhaps improve your processes to have it so you do have more renewals? Do you need to have a dedicated person on your team that reaches out to people, as they're renewing and gets feedback from them and talks to them and builds that relationship? So look at that, because it could be something going on with one of your programs that maybe isn't working or not meeting expectations of your clients, and they're not renewing. So that could be, a project that you look at for the second half of the year so that, you get more renewals or more people even into that program at all. Maybe it needs to shift, maybe it needs to change. Or maybe it was really, really, really good and you want to actually promote that program more and get more people into it because the renewals are so high. So looking at all of that. Review your speaking gigs. Did they give you a return? There's sometimes we think about things like, okay, I invested in this speaking gig, or I sponsored this stage, or I paid this much for a summit, or whatever you did. And did you get opt-ins, and did those people become clients? Like, did that actually convert through? Or sometimes I will go on events and I may even be free. Actually, I often go, I don't have to pay for events, or I don't get paid for events. But then I want to look at that. I want to look at my numbers. It's something you always want to be doing every event you speak at. How many people are in the room? How many took action on your call to action, whatever it was. And then, did they actually end up becoming clients? And if you were somewhere and hardly anybody, was your CTA, you want to review that as well. Maybe it wasn't the right audience. So maybe you don't want to be on that stage again. Maybe it was a fantastic audience, or maybe you only got a small number of people who, say took your lead magnet or bought a ticket to your event or something, but a high percentage of them ended up becoming clients. That was a fantastic stage. Go back to that, reach out to that person again and be like, hey, when's your next event? I want to sponsor that stage again, or be on it. So look at those numbers. What worked? What didn't work? What gave you return? And I know that it can be, it can take a while for someone to go from like seeing you on stage to getting whatever the call to action was, and then eventually becoming clients. But you do want to track that and see where they came from, so that you know which stages to return to. And same with your JV partners. Did any of like the JV partners that you promoted, did you get a return on that? Did your audience like what they were offering? Did they sign up to their event? Did you get opt-ins? Did you get any commission? And if not, maybe you don't want to be promoting that person because maybe just what they have your people don't like. And that's totally fine. That's a conversation that you can have. Yeah, so look at that. Did you get a return on any of that? And maybe you had a fabulous JV partner and you're constantly getting paid. My business coach said that one of his JV partners, like, um, he paid her out, he thinks like after over the years of different events, like up to $100,000 or something like that, which means that she basically like has given him over $1 million in sales. So like that is a great partnership. You want to keep tabs on that person and really build up that relationship. So if you have a great JV partner, you're getting huge returns from it. Give that person a call, set up a meeting with them, look at 2027. What is coming up for 2027? How can you support them? So yeah, have that conversation. And then look at it the other way around too. So you had people who helped you, right? Promoted your events and things like that. Did they bring in any registrations? Did they get good opt-ins? Does their people like what you have? And so again, like people that you got lots and lots of opt-ins for, lots of clicks and things like that, like really good response rate. And even then, like, did those people convert to clients again, right? And did you end up paying commissions? Who are your highest JV partners that you paid commissions to? Like, they're great. They're bringing you people. Like I said, my business coach, right? He's going to maintain that relationship with that woman because he's paying her commissions. So, yeah, review your partners. Who helped you? Who didn't help you? And what did that look like? And look beyond just the size of their list, right? Because you can have a small but mighty list, and those like people converted really, really well. So look into that. All right. Next thing to look at could be your lead magnets. Which ones are working? Which ones are not working? Are there some that are like out of date? Are there some that like everybody downloaded, but then nobody took further action? Like what's going on there? What lead magnets are working and what's not working? And what needs to be tweaked? You can look at, clicks on the page versus opt-in. So maybe you need to update your opt-in page. Or maybe just, the lead magnet's kind of crap and nobody liked it. Nobody wanted it. That's okay. Get rid of it. Have a new one, or maybe just use the ones that are working well. Review your events. What launches did you have in the first half of the year? What events did you have? Master classes with 3-day events, 1-day events, summits? Which one of those brought you the biggest profit? And what did you do differently for that one that you can repeat? Maybe you had an event and you made some tweaks and it did really, really well. And that little tweak, increased your profit or your revenue. So you want to, repeat that, do it again and again. Which events didn't go well? And why didn't they go so well? Hopefully at the end of each event, you do a bit of a retrospective and you look at your numbers and you can kind of identify maybe things to change. So I hope you're doing that for each event. But it's kind of nice to look holistically at it so that when you think, oh, you know what? Like I was going to redo some of this. I was going to have these same master classes in the second half of the year. That's what I had originally planned. But these ones didn't do very well. So maybe I won't do those in the second half of the year now. Maybe I will do a different type of masterclass or a different type of event, or maybe I need to rename it, or whatever tweaks need to happen. Because sometimes, especially with like masterclasses and smaller sort of like free events, we want to be doing those on repeat. And if they're not converting it the way that you want them to convert, stop repeating them, change it up, do something different. Look at how it's going. Just because it's in the plan doesn't mean that it can't get changed for the second half of the year. And then look at your expenses too, right? Is there anything that you don't need anymore? What are you paying for that you do not use? What investments did you make? And are you starting to receive a return on those investments when you look at those expenses? I know a client of mine, kind of got hit hard by his numbers this year and had to let go of staff. And I suggested that to him. I'm like, you are subscribed to so many things. And it may seem like nothing, right? Oh, this is only $10 a month. This is only $20 a month. This is only $30 a month. But if you have like 50 of those, that adds up. And if you're not actually using them regularly, you only use it here and there, then it's likely cheaper to stop the subscription and just pay for the, ad hoc one-off things than keeping up with that subscription. So look at those things. What are you paying for? And do you really need it or not? If things are a little bit tight right now, those are some easy ways to save money for sure. So just only use what you actually need. And then see what deals are out there too. When I switched over to go high level, I that saved me a lot of stuff because I no longer had to pay for Calendly. I didn't have to pay for MailChimp. Um, what else? There was something else I was paying for that I was able to get rid of. And I think, yeah, my website and yeah, there's quite a few things that I could get rid of. And I got a great deal through a community that I'm in that had, a connection with somebody at a really cheap go high level. So yeah, so that was a great way for me to save some money. All right. So you've looked at that whole year, you've gone through all these numbers, and so now you can kind of rejig your plan based on how things are going, right? So what are your quarterly targets? I'm sure you had some set at the beginning of the year, but do they need to be tweaked, changed? What are your revenue targets? Again, what are your client acquisition targets? Looking at your cash flow, do you have any sort of big purchases coming up that you need to make sure that you have enough cash in, and making sure that you have enough, that your cash flow is working, that you got it sitting there ready to go because maybe you've got some stages, or maybe you're going on a business cruise and those payments are coming up. Maybe those yearly expenses, like I don't know. I find that I signed up for quite a few things, got some awesome deal with Black Friday, and so I have a lot of things that are an annual renewal that are all of a sudden due in the end of November, early December. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, got to make sure that I got enough cash for all of that. So looking at all those types of things. Um, and are you making any changes in your business? And what does your team need to do to make that happen? So, what conversations do you need to be having with your team, and when? Like, who's taking over these projects? What's going on with them? Looking at all of that so you can really like allocate your resources properly, and making sure, because especially if you just looked at your whole year and you're like, what, we really need to have this new program, or we want to update our technology, or whatever it might be, or we need to like bump up our marketing or bring in a new person to help with all our marketing. We want to rebrand. There's all these different changes that you could be making in your business. So you want to be looking at your expenses and what you got going on and your events and things, but you also want to be looking at your team and thinking, okay, like, what resources and what people do I need working on what? And if they're already working on so many things, um, you know, how can they have time to work on these other projects if I am doing anything differently? And maybe I need to bring in people or rejig people, or maybe I need to put that project in when we're kind of in between launches, when maybe there's a little bit of downtime. That'd be the perfect time to work on something. So really looking at that and planning in, um, projects versus launches, because you have operational things that aren't directly related to revenue, but they will eventually bring you revenue, versus the things that are those like revenue generating activities that your team are on. So you kind of need to balance that out and make sure that they're not all happening at the same time so your team doesn't get super overwhelmed. And then you also want to look at your launches for the year, right? Which ones do you have coming up? What are your promotional windows for those launches, right? So you have specific launch dates of specific events coming up. Put in the promo windows for those so that you know exactly when you need to be promoting, what you need to be doing, what speaking gigs do you have lined up, what stages do you have sponsored coming up. And again, like right, we're just talking about that, like in terms of your expenses that are coming up, have you already paid for that sponsorship, or was it like, you put a deposit and then the rest of the payments coming up as you get closer to it? Do those speaking gigs still, are they still within your promotional window for your event, and do they still make sense? when we looking at your speaking gigs and what return did they give you in the first half of the year and looking at your JV partners, you want to be making sure that those are still aligned with the second half of the year, because maybe you had a stage and it didn't go so well and you were going to be on that stage again. So maybe you want to have a conversation, maybe being like, hey, like this didn't really work well for me. Is it going to be the same type of people? So looking at what speaking gigs you have lined up, and maybe you don't have enough. Maybe you need to put some in there to help with the promotion for your next big event that's happening in the second half of the year. And same with your JVs, right? What JVs do you have lined up? Because I know many people, will book their JV partners, 6 months in advance. Actually, a client of mine was just talking about how she was talking to a JV partner about 2027 already. So, and if you are having these discussions sort of like 6, 8, 9, 10, or 12 months in advance, you might want to just check in with them. If you look at your JV partners, like, okay, these people are sponsors, like your own stage, right? So you're doing a 3-day event and you have sponsors. What money do you need to be collecting from them, and what JV partners do you have promoting that event? So you might want to just check in with them. Are they still good to do this? Does this still align? Because things change, events change, shifts, things get added in. So you want to make sure that they can still promote you and that they're still good to go. So lots and lots and lots of things to look at. I know I just rambled on for 20 minutes. But yeah, those are all different things I would totally suggest reviewing, throughout the year, the different quarters, especially as you get sort of halfway through the year. Really look at all of this to see how your business is doing so you can get a really good, clear indication of that. And if you are watching this as it comes out on June 24th, I am doing an event on July 9th that is looking at your launches for the year and I'm calling it like a visibility roadmap. So we're going to look at your funnel. We're going to look at the different launches that you have coming up, and then the promotional windows. And then we're going to put together a very clear calendar of how you're going to be visible during those promotional periods for each launch. So you can be as visible as possible and have super successful launches. And I have over 30 different ways in which you can be visible. So we'll be looking at those 30 different ways and then plugging them into your different promotional windows and putting together a whole big calendar so you can see exactly what you need to be doing each day during the promotional windows of your launches coming up for the second half of 2026. So I will put a link to the show notes in there. If you'd like to sign up, I'd love to see you. And yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening. And I really hope that as you review 2026 so far, that it is amazing, or whatever year you happen to be listening to this, that it was really good and fruitful for you, and that you can make some changes to make the rest of your year even better. All right, bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.